My very first job was a commercial for Pac-Man vitamins. I grew up in Chicago, and I went to my very first audition. They were holding it at the community center in this town where I live, Glencoe, Illinois. And me and a bunch of friends, we all went to the community center, not to break into show business or anything like that, but just because it was something fun to do, and they never had auditions in our town, so we went. I don't remember much. I remember eating a hot dog, and then we kind of forgot about it. 6 months later, the same director called and said, hey, we'd love Fred to come in for something else, but this time it was downtown. And I didn't go downtown to downtown Chicago very much, so I was really excited to go. And so we went, and again, nothing really happened. And then 6 months later, the same director called and said, hey, we have another audition. We'd love Fred to come down. And these were all for commercials. And we didn't know anything about the business or how hard people struggle to get their first break. We'd gone to 2 auditions, and my mom was like, well, we've already been to 2 of these things. We don't know if this is going to work out. Downtown's kind of far. And he goes, well, just ask Fred. And it was for Pac-Man vitamins. And at the time, Pac-Man was like the biggest thing ever. And so when I heard Pac-Man vitamins, I of course wanted to go, and I got that job. I started doing commercials after that. The same director and casting director liked me and kept bringing me back, and soon I kind of just started working a lot. But I always think that, if it was for, Tidy Bowl or, Calcan, that I would never have wanted to go. But because it was Pac-Man, I really wanted to go. That was my very first job. Rejection is something that is just kind of part of what we do. If you go out for 20 auditions, and get one of them, that's really great. Even if you're doing terrific, there's still a lot of rejection. I think a lot about baseball players, that if you hit 3 balls out of every 10, that every 10 times you're up at bat, you're going to go to the Hall of Fame. But that's 7 times that you totally fail. And that's very similar to actors, except we fail more. The way I approached it when I was a kid, and even now into adulthood when I go out on auditions, is I really made it important to me that it was never about that job. It was never about getting that job. Because now being a director, I understand it even more. A lot of times when someone comes in a room, immediately, that they're not right for it. They're too short, they're too tall, they're too blonde, they're not blonde enough, their voice is too high, their voice is too low. It's just, to get an actual job, all the stars have to align so perfectly. It has something to do with talent, and then it has a lot to do with just alchemy, with things that you can't possibly control. So I always said to myself, well, I can't control if I'm going to get the job or not, because there's too many things that are out of my control. But the one thing I can control is I'm going to do a great job. So I'm going to be super prepared, and I'm going to know exactly what I want to do in the audition. If they give me a note, I'm going to do everything I can to take that note. And if I don't get it, then you know what? At least I gave it everything I could. And if I don't get it, then I know it's not because I suck. It's because whatever. My nose was too long. Something I just couldn't possibly control. That just kind of helped me in my head, that when I walked in, it was never about that job. It was just about doing the scene well. And I also thought it's never about this job, but it's always about the next 10. Because that casting director is going to be casting a million other things. And that director is going to be directing, a million other things. So when I went in for an audition, I never thought, oh, it's about getting this job. I always thought, well, it's about getting the next 10 auditions. Because then I know if I get 10 more auditions, I bet you I'll get one of those jobs. And if I don't get one of those jobs, if I do great in those 10 auditions, I'll get, those 10 will lead to 10, then I have 100 auditions. You never know if you can get the job if you do a good job. That's just out of your control. So that's kind of always how I handled it. Another thing, a little ritual I would do, which I started when I was younger, and again, still do today, is I never held on to the sides. I never held on to them. When I would walk out of an audition, I'd find the nearest garbage can and throw away the sides. Just for me, it just helped, I just left it in the room. To worry about it, just fret about it. Am I going to get it? Am I not going to get it? Did they call me? Did they not call me? That's just going to drive you bananas. And so, at least drove me bananas. And so I would just throw out the sides. And agents will say, well, hang on to the sides because you might get a call back. They can send more sides. You can print more sides. They can fax you more sides. That is not the issue. The issue is, just for me, I finished the audition. I'm going to get rid of the sides. Not because I'm upset, but just because that's done now. Now what am I going to do the rest of the day? Because I knew I wasn't going to sit around worrying if they're going to call me all day long and holding on to these sides. I just wanted to throw them out and get on to the next thing. And if they call me back, then great, and I'll just print up some more sides. But it always helped for the jobs I didn't get. I just threw it away.